Okay, I'll get started. So, basically what we're working on right now, actually I can start opening the game in another window, right? I don't have that open. Let me get that prepped. But, basically on these streams for the past few weeks, I've been working on this kind of like big tank mini-boss that I imagine you fight in the cargo bay of a spaceship. So it has, if we go back into our like layout settings here, zoop. So you can see it's a little confusing because my file here has a lot of stuff in it, but basically it has like a body, it has 6 legs, and then it has this turret section, and we actually can open up our sketches from last week. Bin, recent file, tank. Here we go. Zoop. Oh my goodness, I can't see my own chat. So yeah, we had done some sketches on how to improve the like placeholder stuff that we put together. And so I started modeling. You can see this right here is like this part right here that we modeled. And let me get this out of the way. So we've still got like the main body underneath, and then I wanted basically these back legs to like share an asset, so we only need to model one of these and then we can have 4 instances of it. But the front legs are a little bit different. You can see they don't have this like protruding shield up top. I think their actual proportions are a bit different. But just to show where the game is at, we can open it up over here. Oh my goodness. So you can see there's the dingus that we modeled last week, and it's sitting on top of all these other placeholder parts that we like modeled and coded up 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I think today I'm gonna work on these like leg parts. I'm actually pretty busy, so we might only get an hour in this week, but I at least wanted to stream something. Another thing that I've been thinking about, you can see I did a little bit of material work on this. So I was actually doing some like Blender like procedural materials where you can do like edge detection and add this edge wear, as well as like filling rust in based on like ambient occlusion, as well as also just generally baking out like colors. But like I've been having some annoying issues with it. It like looks way better if I go to like shading over here in Blender. You can see it actually like has like a lot more streaks and it's a lot more consistent and stuff. I don't know why, but that's not baking out to textures correctly, and so when I import everything into Unreal, it doesn't look as good. I tried 2 different Blender baking plugins. I tried Fluent Materializer, and I also tried Simple Bake. Neither of them seem to be giving satisfactory results. And if anybody knows a better Blender solution, I'm all ears, but I actually think that this is basically just a sign from like, you know, that, you know, Blender materials have lost the mandate of heaven and that I should be using Adobe Substance Painter like everybody else. So luckily you don't have to pay like an insane Adobe subscription fee for Substance Painter if you just buy it through Steam, apparently. So I went through and did that, and I started reading the manual and watching tutorials. So actually what I think I'm going to do is probably just bring these models, instead of doing the materials in Blender, I'm just going to use Blender to do modeling and rigging. And then I'm gonna bring them, like, I'm gonna bring the FBXs into Substance Painter, and then let Substance Painter do all the stuff that I like doing with the materials, which is like automatically adding the edge wear, like automatically adding some of this like procedural texturing, and Painter actually has like a huge like library of different types of noise that can make a bunch of that kind of stuff, and then also being able, this is like maybe a little hard to see on the stream or like at this resolution, also with my camera sensitivity being set way too high. There we go. But we can also, like, maybe it's like a little bit hard to see, but you can see it's like a lot smoother. Like, these pieces aren't just like two 3D computer graphics planes meeting each other like they are here in the original 3D modeling tool, but that like actually I'm like using, in this case, cycles, like the Blender renderer, but hopefully once we get into Substance Painter, I can just use the Substance Baker to basically like bevel out the normals. Like, it creates a normal map which essentially hides this seam and makes it instead look like they're two pieces of metal been welded together. And like, you know, if this is like a AAA game, I could even go in Substance Painter and like muss that up a bit and make it actually look like a welding bead, like it had actually been industrially done without having to add any geometry, which is really cool. But for the moment, like I said, I'm just going to focus on modeling. So I think in our, if I look real quick, yeah, I didn't really change the proportions of these legs all that much, so I think I can keep them mostly the way they are, though I do want to look in Engine here and see how I scaled the front legs versus the back legs. So relative to how I originally modeled these placeholder assets, the front leg is at 80%, and then the back legs are at basically 100% and 110%, right? So this one is at the size that I modeled it. This one's a little smaller. This one's a little larger. So I think I'm going to start with this back leg, but I can just model it at the same size. If we go back into our layout view, zip, zip. Oh, we want to hide all this stuff. Basically at the same size that this placeholder model was put together at. That will suffice for these back legs. And then for the front leg, I basically just need to make a copy of this. I need to scale it down 20%. And then we can use that as basically a basis for how big we do like the real sculpt. But I think similar to what we were doing last time, what I want to do is, I think I have the ability, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who knows more about Blender, but I think I have the option to display this as like wireframe. Okay, that just changed the wireframe of the armature. I actually need to select the geometry here and render you as wireframe as well. Great. So that's probably a little hard to see on the stream, but it's no big deal. I basically am just hiding all that stuff. Yeah, and I already set it up on the last stream so that I can't like click and select it. So we're not actually using this like rig that we made before, other than it's just going to sort of be an onion skin ghost in the background. Then when I do my new model on top of, it'll like, whatchamacallit, like we'll be able to just sort of generally gauge like the size this stuff should be. But when I made this, it was like so janky. You can see all these cubes aren't even like correctly, like quite rotated correctly. So this new one, it makes more sense to start over. I think looking at this, we did have this idea, if I recall last time, that like underneath, so it's not going to be like this. This was me referencing what these limbs look like in the anime Pat Labor. I think ours is a little different, where it's like there's basically an undercarriage which has like a lot of like gizmos and greebles and machinery, and then there's this plate that's sitting on top of it. That's kind of like our design language for this whole tank, which is that all the armor plating is just like frosting that sits on top, but that things underneath are exposed. So there's going to be these two sort of rounded plates, and there's going to be this big shield, but then we've also got, I want to preserve this idea that there's like big round joints, like where the bones meet. So there'll be like a big round guy here, and there'll be a big round guy here, and then a big round guy here. And then here there's just going to be like a wheel. And in the previous version, just to keep it simple, I just did another sphere for the wheel. But I think now what I actually want to do is think about like the wheel is actually going to be like an actual wheel, like a cylinder. And there's going to be a bracket that like connects it. So you can see there's like this bracket here, which is going to connect it to some gizmos here that I imagine are kind of like a gimbal that rotates the wheel. So like the wheel, as the character moves in game, like we go back to the game here, I hide all this other stuff. Like as this character like moves around, instead of just having like balls that are touching the ground, like it'll have actual wheels. Then I can compute the point velocity of the wheel on the ground, and that can just automatically rotate the wheel so that like as the character moves around, it should look like really responsive and smart, like the wheels are like twisting to represent. And like of course, like when it turns, like the wheels will all be turned in different directions, right? Because that's like how it like pivots. I think that will make it like a more, just like a subtly more dynamic character. So let's come in here. I think to start with, I'm just going to place, I think I'm going to place those like balls, like for all these, like these three joints. And like we're adding another one, right? Like here where it meets the main body. So I think I'm going to, one of the sort of lessons that I learned doing this version of the turret, no, I want to select you, was that you can actually get pretty good, this is my trick for getting like better geometry from a sphere. Like I can like select all these linked parts and isolate as Shift H, right? Yeah. So basically what I did with this is I made like a basic UV sphere, but then I like deleted specific rings so that like I only had rings where like they really mattered, as opposed to having like uniform rings even when we didn't really need them. And then at this cap, you can see I deleted every other edge, because this cap, the way Blender normally generates them, is like a triangle fan, and it's actually better like for various reasons that have to do with like how subdivision modifiers are applied to make sure that all your geometry is quads. And so you can see by deleting every other line here, not only did I eliminate this like mess, this like very dense geometry on the like poles of this thing, but it also means that these are all four-sided, right? Like these are four-sided pizza wedges, which means that like if we apply a subdivision modifier to this, we'll get like a more reliable result, and there won't be this like crazy extra subdivided pinching that happens on the sides. And like subdivision modifiers are important, not necessarily for modeling, because like I'm trying to keep everything extremely low, so like this is the actual geometry that I want to use in game. But it is like when you are making the material, right, what you want to do is you want to duplicate the geometry, you want to smooth it, and you want to bevel certain edges, and you want to like get it how you like wish it looked in game. And then Substance Painters, like when you import it, you can import both the base model and the like so-called high poly model, and it will just automatically generate a normal map that makes it look like it's super high poly, even though it's like not that high poly. And that's sort of like what we want to shoot for, because you can see like this is like not that much geometry. I think this is like pretty game ready. Like maybe I like have too much geometry on this like tiny handle, but like that's pretty fun, right? So like this is about the density that I want for everything, just because I want all my assets to be really small. I want the game to load really fast, basically. And it's just kind of like an aesthetic, right? And I'm just like, I'm not really a great 3D modeler, so I don't actually know how to wrangle when there's like an insane amount of topology. So let's start out by making a new collection, and I'm just going to call this like back leg. I guess I'll call this parts. Oh my goodness. Although I thought it made more sense to like combine things before you rig it, but I think it's actually better to leave it as parts even when you rig it and export it to FBX, because it turns out that in Adobe Substance Painter, when you generate bevels, like where objects are intersecting, and when you generate AO, which stands for ambient occlusion, which basically means give me shading inside the nooks and crannies, it's actually able to be very smart about understanding when things are separate objects and not to like bake hard seams where two like separate objects are intersecting, so that like when they're animated and when they move, you're not like in a situation where like it looked great in its rest pose, but as soon as you distorted it, the baked map obviously looks weird. Elsa Chloe 909 says, "Hi, how are you? I have a problem with my headphones, so I can't hear you. Can you reply to me in chat? I will really appreciate it. By the way, where are you from?" That's I'm in California, I'll say. But I'm not going to get any more specific than that. That's a weirdly personal question. Also, I don't know what I have a problem with my headphones are. I'm not going to reply to you in chat. I don't know. This person seems a little strange. Sorry if you're not strange, but you're like coming off with a weird energy. Cool. So I'm going to start out. I'm going to do the 3 balls. And like I said, I'm going to create UV spheres. Why is that not showing up? I want to go into object mode, add mesh UV sphere. Here we go. So you see UV spheres are kind of like when you have a globe, right? It's like there's latitude lines and then there's longitude lines. This is like usually the way that like people think about parameterizing a globe, because it kind of looks like a grid. Although like technically it's like a little uneven, right? Like they're bigger around the equator and they're smaller around the North and South Pole. So it's not like a perfect topology. But it's pretty good. We can take it down a lot. So we really don't need that much geometry. I think 16 is pretty good. For the rings, I think 12 is pretty good. We still have like an equatorial. If it's an odd number, we don't have equatorial line, which I think is a problem. Or is it a problem? I don't know. Maybe it's like fine. Is that like too much geometry? What if we had like 11? I basically want this to be like as little geometry as possible, but like still good looking. Yeah, I think these, we want them to be a multiple of 4 if we want to have an edge at like both of those directions. I think 12 is too small, so we got to add 4. So that's how we're going to end up with 16. Cool. So, do we like that? Do we want 11, 12, 13? Maybe 12 is fine. Maybe we do want to have like topology at the equator of this sphere. Like I might be overthinking this. Maybe like I just do 1, and if it turns out to be like an issue later, I can just change it. Actually, no. Actually, I think I have a good reason for wanting to do 11. Because I want there to be essentially a track in the middle, so I'm going to want to like inset and extrude inward. So like, yeah, let's do an odd number of rings, and then segments we want it to be a multiple of 4. So this looks like a good amount of geometry for what I'm trying to create. So I'll click away, and we can click in here, and I just want to get rid of all the other lines on these caps, Actually, I have, this is showing up as blue because I have like weight display enabled from when I was weight painting. I can like turn vertex group weights off, and now we're seeing it as nice visible gray geometry again. So I select all of them, I hit X. If I were to delete these edges, it would actually delete all the geometry that they're touching. I think it would actually make like the caps disappear, whereas if I dissolve the edges, it like basically leaves the faces that they're touching behind, and it just kind of merges them together. All right, so let's do that on the bottom side as well. We'll select every other edge so that we have nice quads. We'll dissolve those edges. I actually think I'm going to hide that so I just see this geometry. So we have this dingus. I think probably we want to shade it auto smooth. If you say shade auto, by the way, you can press F3 in Blender and it just lets you type in commands rather than having to know the hotkey or know where in the UI it is. So a lot of stuff I just type in. Shade auto smooth. This is going to go into the modifiers for this object, and it's going to add this like smooth by angle modifier. So you see anywhere where the angle's gentle, it's basically going to give us average normals rather than creased normals, right? So now we can come in here, and like basically what I want to do is I want to go into edge select mode. I think if I, nope, that's not how I want it. There you go. You can like select a ring of faces by selecting one face and then out clicking, like the one next to it, and then if it's able to keep walking around in that direction and wrap back around and create a ring, then it will select the entire ring. That's pretty cool. Anyway, I think we should be able to just extrude inward. I'll like right click and then just say scale and then say Shift Z to only scale horizontally. Actually, no, I think Alt S. Yeah, this is what we want. So Alt S basically moves faces in and out along their normal, right? So now we can like put this in, and we basically have created like a little track inside of here, right? And then my idea, if we do like RY90, actually, where are we rotating around? Active element. No, we want medium point. That's why those scales are being weird. Say RY90. Now we can see, basically, I like this idea that like there's a ball joint, and that can sort of like move like a ball and socket joint relative to the main body of the mech. But then this leg part here is going to like slot like into this track, right? And so then as the leg moves, like this will rotate so that the track is always oriented in the direction that the leg is pointing, but it's like revolving inside the thing. This was a very similar thing that we did, that you see I did here for like the way that the turret connects. And so I like repeating those kind of like mechanical design elements. And I think I'm gonna just shrink this dingus down. I'm gonna leave it at the origin, just so that like whatchamacallit, we basically want the base of this character to be just at the origin, like where this red and green line are intersecting, just to keep it simple for like when I export and import, to make sure that like the model is not like at a weird position relative to its actor. If that doesn't make sense, you don't have to worry about it. There's probably just like a few people who are doing like Unreal development, or maybe know what that means. Cool. So now I think I want to just go back to object mode. I want to look at this from the side, and you can do Shift D. And because I'm looking at it from the side, this object is only moving like in the center plane. So we want to just come down here, and then I think I actually want to go into wireframe mode just so I can make sure I've like really aligned this. Like, I don't have to be super precise with the way that the placeholder model was set up, but I think this is pretty good. That's Shift Z, by the way, is how you swap between shaded mode and wireframe mode really quickly. That's a very helpful like blueprint hotkey. And I think this dingus wants to be scaled down just a little bit, probably. Let's make sure that they're like living like basically coincident where that ball joint was before. Doesn't have to be perfect, but. And then I think the last ball joint for this is going like up where this one was. So we'll go back to the side. By the way, to quickly look at this orthogonally, which means from the side, you can use 1 to look from the front, 3 to look from the side, 7 to look from the top, and then 9 on the number pad will flip you to the opposite side. So that's pretty helpful. And then there's also like the 4, 6, 8, 2 are kind of like arrow keys, and they let you kind of like in increments like rotate around the principal axes. So looked like that strange person Elsa left the chat. I don't think they were interested in watching. I think they were like a weird Fisher person. Let's dupe this. Let's move it up here. I guess this ball is kind of the same size as this one. I don't know if they should all be the same size or it makes sense for these two to be slightly smaller. I'll leave them slightly smaller for now. Actually, no. I think let's get rid of this dingus. And then let's dupe this smaller one. And then I can say Alt G is basically just snap. G's for grab. I don't know why they use G as opposed to like usually you would say like T for translate. But they don't say translate. They say grab. You like grab something to move it. But you can say Alt G to like get rid of any position. So that just, I can say G, I can grab it, move it over there. I can say Alt G. Oh my goodness. I did Windows G. I can say Alt G and it just snaps back to the origin. That's a fun little Blender hotkey. So now we got those 3 main ones. I think for now, rather than getting too detailed into like what the undercarriage looks like, I think I just basically want to do a capsule, and then I want to bevel the edges of the capsule. So let's add a new object, and it's going to be a, sorry, not a capsule, a cylinder is what I meant to say. 32 is way too many vertices for the low poly aesthetic that I'm going for, so we're going to take it down to like, I think 16 makes sense. I think any less than that, because I want to do a multiple of 4 just so that it has 4-way symmetry, and I sort of feel like 12 is too few, so 16 it is. Click away. Let's come in here. I'm just gonna like scale Shift Z, just make it a little skinnier. I'm not gonna rotate it in here. I actually want to rotate it as an object. So I'm going to grab it, I'm going to put it in between these two, and we're going to press R to rotate it. And we just want to connect those 2 spheres. The reason I want to rotate it like that is because when we come in here, I can like, if we came in and we displayed like the move tool, like if I select one of these faces, you see it's in world space right now, but because I rotated the object rather than rotating the geometry inside of the object, I don't know if like this is a thing from Blender people understand. When you're like in the layout mode, it says object mode here. That's like you have all these objects, right? An object is just sort of like a container for a bunch of stuff, right? And then when we press tab, we go to edit mode. That means we picked one of the objects, and now we're editing what's inside that object, right? And in this case, it contains geometry. It contains vertices, edges, and faces. So here, I just want to come in here and say auto smooth again, just make that smoother looking. But now that we're in here, you can press you press and hold comma, and this basically says I want to change my coordinate space. And there's the local coordinate space, and this is the coordinate space of the object itself, right? So now I have a coordinate space that's relative to the rotation. So I don't have to, I can still think of like Z as being like along the axis of this cylinder, as opposed to using like finicky other means to like get that. So like here I can say SC, scale Z. Actually I want to say A to select everything, then SC. And now you see I'm scaling along the axis of the cylinder. That's like very easy because instead of rotating the geometry inside the box, I just rotated the whole box and then set the mode from global to local, which means I'm now operating relative to the orientation of the box. That's like a very long-winded way, and like, I don't know, maybe people who have even a passing interest in 3D CAD tools already know that, but that's how it works. So I want to come in here and actually I want to go to edge select mode. So I press 2 on, not on the number pad, but on the number bar, like above all the letter keys on the keyboard. I press 1 to select points, 2 to select edges, 3 to select faces. We're at 2. I can alt click and in order to select this ring of edges. And I can shift alt click. Shift means add to the current selection, and then alt click means pick a whole ring. So I've selected both of those rings, and that's because I want to bevel both of them. So I can hit Control B, and now we have the bevel tool. So you can see what bevel does is it's pretty simple. It's just like going in like to that ring and like turning that ring into a ring of faces. It's just like cutting an edge. You can actually use the mouse wheel to say how many cuts, right? And you can actually make this into more of a capsule. Or you can just do one cut if you want this to be sharp. I want this to be sharp because basically I just want a thing that looks like a canister. So we'll just put it right there. And then, yeah, I'll just like everything scale Z again. Cool. So I think when I scaled it down, I kind of changed the nice edge that had. So let's go into face select mode there and there. You can scale Z to push those out a little bit. We can change the angle of this. I also want to take everything, S to scale, Shift to Z to scale. This is like relative to, like I don't want to change the height. I just want to scale instead of 2D. And then I think what I'm going to do is, just to be sure, I'm going to go to edge select mode. I'm going to select these edges, these edges, these edges, and these edges. I'm going to say mark sharp, just to make sure that these are like sharp edges. So now you see we have like a nice looking canister that's like in between these two. I think that is like a pretty good like basic model of like, there's kind of like a bunch of like pistons, right? And you imagine there's like bars that are going into this sort of like enclosure, and that there would be a bunch of like gears or like differential things happening that like would sort of like operate it, right? So I don't have to like get like too detailed into it, but I think I do want to put another cylinder here that sort of passes out, like out of this canister and like into the balls on either side. So do I actually want to come in here and like rotate? I think I want to rotate. I'm holding shift while I rotate. That lets you rotate more slowly. I want to grab this and just make sure that they're like aligned in between those two ball joints a little bit better. Oh, I see some people have joined the chat. Hello, Onekaze. Hello, C. Brennan. Just to catch you up, I like had this like placeholder leg, which if we look in game, here they are, and like made 6 of them on this spider tank. And then last week we did this sketch of what we want the legs to really look like. So I have to make like a mechanical undercarriage for the leg. I have to make these armor pieces that sit on top of it. And then there's like some detailing, and then there's this wheel apparatus. So that's basically just what we're modeling today. But thanks for watching. Appreciate to have any attention at all while I work. So now let's come in here, and I'm going to go to side view. I'm going to Shift D to make another dingus. I'm going to rotate it so that it's like kind of aligned to how this was before. I want to get it like in between these two. we'll tab in here, and then I'm going to select these rings. We're just going to pull them, sort of change the proportions of this. We'll pull this way. And like, let's really look at this. I think this needs to be rotated just a little bit. And we want to like grab it and like move it just a little bit closer. I think that's pretty good. I don't want them to be too much smaller. Though this one, it still feels like it's meeting this in a weird angle. I think we want this to like be rotated this way and then brought down this way. So now I think what I want to do is, let me think for a second. I think it's actually like, I'm gonna pull in, like maybe we can pull in this edge. And then I can add another just like bar coming out the middle, which is gonna go like into this dingus. So I think what I can do is I can say Shift-Z, cursor to selected. I don't know, does that actually give the cursor the rotation? That's annoying. And there's no, it doesn't show me any like cool options. That's annoying. I can just do this inside this object, I think. I think actually what we can do is I can select this face. I can say like Shift-D, right click to not move it out here. Scale this down so that it fits inside of this like track that I made in these. And then E, I can extrude backwards, and we can like make just this like bar. Then I want to come in here and I want to select these sides. Actually, I want to delete those faces because I don't want faces on either side, but I do want to select, go back to edge select mode, and like pull these fully inside of there. And like pull these fully inside of there. So now there's this like, you know, connecting bar between there. And then I think I'll do something similar here, where we'll select these two edge rings, pull them just a little bit back from here, grab this face, Shift-D, and the Z-axis, move it right there. We're going to scale this face down. There's actually like a Blender live streamer. He's really great. You can look up on YouTube. They're called like Infrenza. Wait, let me actually get that name specifically. I subscribe to them, so I should be able to just go to my YouTube channel. Why is this not in alphabetical order? It's total fail, YouTube. I subscribe to too many things. I'm hoisted on my own petard. Let me find this. This would be more interesting if it was on the screen that I'm sharing, but I don't want you to see all the embarrassing YouTube channels that I look at. Anyway, here he is. So, Infenzia. He's kind of like Scandinavian dude. But like I've kind of adopted his style of streaming of just like saying the buttons that you're pressing while you go. He does these like speed sculpts, so he goes like so fast. And he's like, bah, 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 bah. He's also like way more talented at stuff than I am. But like he introduced this like concept of like a really quick way that you can model and like do models that are like relative to each other is to just duplicate faces, pull them off, and then extrude those duplicated faces. That's one of his like speed modeling techniques. So we're gonna come in here. I think it's okay if it's like just slightly too big. And we're gonna E, Z, pull it in here. We're gonna go back to edge mode. We're gonna grab this. We're gonna pull it in here. I'm gonna go into face select mode in wireframe, and we're gonna pick the end caps, which we don't need because they're hidden. We're gonna delete those. Shift Z. We're gonna go back into normal view, right? And now we've got this other piston part, which is like into sort of there. So let me see. Do these like look aligned correctly? I don't think they look aligned super well. So I think what I want to do is just like really make sure. Let's go into like, I think what I want to do is like come in here. I want to overlap that center vert. I want to make sure I'm aligned to that. I'll come over here. So this one, yeah, it's basically hitting the center there. So I think that is good positioning for this guy. And like I think on this side, it's gonna be like a little asymmetric, but I think we're going to, if we're going to edge select mode, or face select mode, press 3, just hover my mouse over here and press L. That will be select linked. So it's gonna only select the faces, starting with the face that's under the mouse cursor, that's actually connected, right? So because this little guy is not actually connected, like they have no vertices in common, the linked operation doesn't select that. So I can say Shift D, then I can say Z, and we can move over here, right? And then I can say Scale Z. This one can be a lot smaller. We can just sort of zhuzh them. Yeah, but now we come in here and we see we've got that extra nice, it's just like an extra little piece that like connects into that one. We can do the same thing over here. So I think I want to select this linked, I want to zhuzh that a little bit this way, and press A selects everything, A, 2 times, deselects everything. That's a quick thing, like no matter what select, like if you have this selected, you can always go A, now nothing's selected. And we can say L to select linked on this dingus, say Shift D, Z, and then move it this way. Yep. And then let's look from the side, and let's look in wireframe view, and I should be able to scale Z, take it down a little bit, and zhuzh it here, just in between those two. And this, yeah, that's surprisingly well lined up with that. And then this side, is it lined up with this center? It is not quite lined up with this center. So we're going to come out here. I'm going to come here. Just rotate. Hold Shift while we rotate. Just make sure we're like really lined up with that center, and we come down here and we are not quite lined up there. This is very this is not the right way to be doing this. I'm sure there's a way to just get an orientation that points from one point to another, but the way I've done it is good enough. Great. So now we've got these. These are kind of like, I imagine they're sort of like piston, they're the mechanical enclosures. I don't know. They're mostly going to be covered up by armor, so you don't have to worry about them too much. But save, always save. Oofta. I'm feeling a little bit parched. It's going to be 1 o'clock. So here, let me just getting water. 30 seconds. Cool. BRB. I say 30. Whatever. Look at that, I step away for 30 seconds and a spammer enters the chat. So cool, so cool. Oh well, what can you do? Let's see, do I have like options? everybody live, they're gonna watch if I can figure out how to do. It's like a little sword that feels like the thing that you would okay, let's see. Block. Report. Spam. Cool. Sorry. Full-fledged inventory KA8 spammer man, you have officially been reported. Cool. Isn't this great content for streaming, everybody? Let's go back. So, I'm gonna move my monitor. Oh my goodness, so much better. Okay. I have my monitor on like a big arm, so I can like move it around. Oh no, I'm covering up my camera. Great. Cool. So we've got these two sort of like mechanical looking dinguses. I think the next thing I'm going to do is add this wheel. Excuse me. So the wheel is not a ball like these ball joints with a track. I think the wheel is just going to be like a it's going to be a cylinder, but I'm going to I think do like a like rounded bevel on it. So let's just come out here. And then I think isn't there a way? Yeah, so shift right click. You can move this. You see this little guy I'm moving around? This is called the 3D cursor. It's a weird, I mean, like I understand why Blender has it, but it's like a weird thing. I wish it was like easier to manage. But this is basically like I can place a reference transform in the world. And then when I add a new object, like in this case, a cylinder, it's going to appear on top of that 3D cursor. So I think the amount of geometry we gave these is like pretty good for this wheel as well. So I'm going to leave that the way it is. And then we're going to come in here and scale you down RY 90 to rotate around the Y axis 90 degrees. And then I think what I'm going to do, unlike, I mean, I could have done it with these balls or whatever, but, or let's just come in here and say shade auto smooth, so we get like smooth look. But I do have this plugin that I've installed. Which one is it? Edit Auto Mirror. This is like a standard Blender plugin. You just go into the preference and search Auto Mirror and then click a checkbox and you get it. It's not like a crazy third-party thing. But you can see I want to mirror across the x-axis, right? And I want to like cut and mirror. So what happens is I do that and we come in here and now you see like we have, it's like mirrored, right? So I only need to edit one side of this, and because the wheel is symmetric, we'll get it on both sides. So now I need to go into edge select mode by pressing 2, and then I alt click one of those edges to select this ring, and then we say Control B to start beveling, and then I can move in and out to change how big the bevel is, but I can also mouse wheel up. You see that? Oh, you can change the number of subdivisions. So we're going to do that basically to just give this wheel, do I want 1 or 2 subdivisions? I think 2 subdivisions. You only live once. Let's splurge. And then I can go along the x-axis to sort of move it in there. And I think what we want to do is go face select mode. And I think we're going to, let me think. Want inset, or do I just want to bring this dingus in? Great. Get the cromulent wheel. It's good enough for now. So now let's see if we look at the sketch. I basically imagined this. Whoop, bring my cursor in here. Imagine this like bracket, like this, right? Which holds the wheel in. So let's model that. I think the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make it a separate object. I'm going to start with a cube. We're going to come in here. I'm going to move the cube out. We're going to come back. I'm going to auto mirror. So we have that cube on either side. Select everything, shrink it down. We can bring it in. Actually, we know that this side is hidden, so we don't need it. So we can delete that face. We can bring it in. Then we can grab, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to model the bracket just as a cube, and then I'm going to subdivide. I'm going to like apply a modifier that smooths it, and then I'm going to delete unnecessary. I'm going to apply that subdivision, and then I'm going to clean up the geometry that it made, and that will give us like a nice smooth bracket, but I don't have to like add like a bunch of like fiddly like bullshit. So E, pull this out, come here, E, pull it up, E again, and then E, come in, and this will finish our bracket. Let me delete this face. Cool. So here we are. I think like can SY, we can make it a little more even. I think this face. Oop, let's go to edge mode, grab these edges, let's pull all of this down. I think we go face mode. No, let's go back to edge mode. I think it's easier to just select edges like this. Great. And then select these edges. Yeah, I think this is all basically, like how big are these? Like 1, 2, I think about 2, 1, 2. These are about 1. Yeah, those are about the same size. I don't think the size has to be perfect. Now the brackets being like, is it fine if the brackets are straight up and down? I wonder. Maybe pull this in just a little bit, like we keep it tight. Yeah, I don't think I want to like angle, because like it could be like they're like tapered. I don't think I actually want to like taper it or anything. Well, let's see. What if I like did? Here's the thing that I learned last week, and I could share with everybody. Control Alt Shift S to shear things. I don't think they call it shear. I think they call it something else, but. This is like not quite rotating, you see. What we're doing is we're moving the top and the bottom, right? So what makes more sense? That it would be sheared this way or that it would be sheared this way? Maybe just the slightest shear that way. Or, man, I'm second guessing myself. What if it's like this, just the slightest bit like this? Well, I think all things being equal, I want to grab this top part. I think it should be closer. Green Coke says, cat, 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 cat. Hello, Green Coke. Welcome to the chat. Okay, so we got this stuff. One thing I can do is I can say Shift H. Wait, no, that's not what I wanted. One thing I can do is, so there's like the slash, the / key that's above your numpad. You can press that in Blender and it will hide everything except the one thing that you're editing. That's super helpful. So we can select this edge ring. I think I'm just going to pull these into the middle. Actually, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I'll pull in a little bit, but I want to say SX0 and select this one, SX0. Pull it in almost, but not quite to the middle. We'll like leave them disconnected for now. Okay. So now what I want to do, as I was saying, is we can come into the modifiers here, and I can add a modifier called subdivision surface. And you see what this does is it, you know, it smooths it out, right? And actually I want to move that before the mirror modifier because we're going to apply that shortly. Blusions says, hey Max, been following the game development for a minute. Super excited for what's to come. If you're ever at Glitch, I'd love to say hi. Yeah, sorry it's been like a hot minute since I've been. Just for anybody else who's listening, Glitch is a just sort of like public indie game co-op in Los Angeles. They're based out of, they're like close to K-Town and downtown. There's like resident members who go in there all the time. But then there's also like students and other people who basically just support it on Patreon and then are allowed to show up from time to time. So that's what I do. I show up from time to time. It's a very cool place. You know, if you want to like play board games with game devs, it's a great place to go. Green Coke says, hey, yay, robot sketch is looking good. It did make me wonder why choose to combine legs with wheels. Is it done to achieve certain animations? I mean, like, I've also got other guys that like steppy, steppy, steppy. I just kind of liked how this looked. It was also like there were these, I mean, this leg, like, I sort of like sketched based on looking from some reference art from Pat Labor. But like Pat Labor had this weird mech, which like, it's like heels could come down and they were wheels and they could like move around. But then it could like pick its heels up and put its claws down and then and it could like go either way. I thought that's pretty cool. But I just think it's good to like, because I have so many like spider-like things, to have kind of like a variety of like, okay, well these ones are steppy ones and these one are wheel ones and stuff like that. So you can see doing the subdivision kind of made this a little too organic. That's fine. We can come in here. When the subdivision is applied in whatchamacallit, when it's applied, like you'll see the original geometry as a wireframe, then you'll see a subdivision geometry. One of the things you can do with subdivisions is we can come in here, we can say Control R, which gives us, lets us add an edge ring. And you can basically place edge rings close to joints. And that has the effect of like straightening this all out. So I can put some edge rings in here. And we can make sure they're all kind of even. If you want to just like move an edge ring without being like too fiddly about the directions or whatever in Blender, you can always just press G twice, GG. That's slide along edge, right? So out click to select that whole ring, and GG. You can like move this down, out click, GG, move it like this. So I guess that's pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to tab out. I'm going to hover my mouse over this modifier, and you can just press Control A on the keyboard, and that's apply. And now we have all that smooth geometry baked in, right? So now we're not editing a cage and seeing a smooth geo. Now we're just editing the smooth geo. And so now I'm going to press / on the numpad to isolate this. What I want to do is basically start dissolving edges, because like the subdivision is nice, but like when you're low poly modeling, it adds like too much geometry. So after you add it, you know, I kind of like going in and then removing like a bunch of this unnecessary geometry that gets added, so that I just have like basically rings around these sort of like bevel corners. I think that looks pretty good. I think I can actually no. You can control click to basically pick the shortest path. I think I can actually yank some geometry. Is that good? Wait, let's... Yeah, I think I want to yank that, and I think I want to yank this edge and dissolve that as well. I'm going to take this whole thing, and we're just going to scale in the Y direction and make it a little bit narrower. Yeah, so now we have like a wheel bracket. I don't know if that's great, but it's good enough for government work. Let's also F3. We can just shade smooth to make the whole thing smoother looking, so it doesn't have any of those like weird things. Though maybe, is there like any sharp edges that I might want to call out? What if I sharpened this edge? Would that make it look more interesting? No, I don't think that helps. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Cool. So the basic idea is that like you have this bracket, and you have this wheel, and then they can spin, right? And so we'll set up like a procedural animation thing in the game so that like it's always aligned to the direction that that leg is moving relative to the ground. And then I think now we need to basically do, I guess it's going to be another one of these canisters. We'll just have it connect into this bracket, and I think I'll have a canister up here and then another canister down here. Or maybe, yeah, let's just see. Like, what if I just grab this, Shift D, move it over here, let's rotate it, so that's like basically aligned. Let's, oop, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's align this to the center. Is that aligned on the bottom there? No, I think we need to like go this way a little bit. I went too far. Let's shift rotate back very slowly. Now we're all lined up. Cool. So we can bring this in here. I think this canister will be in like sort of the middle. And let's come in here. Let's actually grab all of these, pull them up, grab these vertices, pull them into this bracket there. And then we'll have a kind of like a second canister which terminates into this like wheel bracket. So let's just like linked faces to select only this canister, Shift D to duplicate it, GZ to move it along this axis. Let's actually just move it way down here for now. And then we can grab all of these and we can make this like a much more squat one. And pull it back up here. And then I think what I want is for this should be kind of like below the bracket, but it should also be, yeah, there we go. Yeah, and then I think this ring, I think on both sides it should just be like a thing. And I think actually I want the whole thing scale Shift Z. Should be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. I think actually should be smaller. So now those things are all hooked up. Let me pull this just a little bit further. Maybe this dingus we can, it's straight up and down, right? Yeah. So I should be able to grab this and just move this part up just a little bit. And then this can be moved up just a little bit. I think that's pretty good. So this is kind of like, let's go in here. Let's select this guy and move them up. Nope. Let's move them up just a little bit. Select this ring here, move it up. Green Goat says, late reply on my end, but you said you made a couple different sketches, and that's cool to hear. I used to draw on my way to work in the train, but nothing game related. Oh, yeah. I mean, the funny thing about this game is that it started as an idea for a comic. I don't know why I decided to be like, you know what's easier than a comic? Like a game where I have to also learn 3D modeling and computer programming and everything else. But, I think actually this guy, S-Shift-Z, should be like actually kind of fatter than these other two bracket pieces. And then I think we can select this ring and this ring, SC, move it out just a little bit so that the angle still kind of matches even though it's bigger. And then I think this ring and this ring can actually move down a bit. And we can grab this ring and move it down a bit. Cool. I think this is a pretty good... Right? Wait, let's think about this. Do we like these proportions? Do we like what's happening here? I wonder if, like, actually... Okay, here's my crazy idea. I think this should be rotated out a little bit. And then I think the bracket should be rotated. Green Goat says, nice, nice. So I want to rotate. You can press the period button on the keyboard, press and hold it to bring up the pivot menu. This is like, what's the point I want to rotate around? I actually want to rotate around as a 3D cursor. It's like this little guy right here. So now, when I rotate this, we can bring this kind of like, I think, forward just a little bit. Love to screw around for game stuff. It's really cool to see you made your own stuff work. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm being a little facetious. Like, I've been in like games for a long time. So, here, wait, let me, what if I select this and say Shift S, cursor to selected. We go back to 3D cursor rotation mode. Now when I rotate this, yes, yes. So we can come in here and select this. We can go back to like medium point mode. We can pull this down so that it's intersecting that bracket. Then I think I'm going to want to pull this down to get inside here. And I actually think scale Shift-Z, this should be like a bit fatter. And then we can select these rings and we can pull them down. Pull these rings down. Like maybe this is like all the way down here. And then this piece just comes in here. Cool. I think I like this a little bit better. I'm having second thoughts about some of these, the proportions of some of these other pieces, though. I wonder if, like, they should be, like, oh my goodness. I want to select this ring and this ring. I can pull this up. Like, maybe they should all be, like, more off-center towards the, like, far sides. How long you doing this? I've been working on this, like, tank guy / scene. Wait, I can actually pull up the scene. I'm working on this tank scene just on these Friday streams for, I think this is the 3rd week. I've been working on this game, Nightshift Galaxy, now part-time for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. And then I've been making games just in general, like working in the games industry for 20 years. I got started in 2006. So, got started making MMOs at Disney a long time ago. So, yeah, spoiler alert, I'm in my 40s. I recommend everybody get a painting in your attic that grows old while you continue to look beautiful and young. That's a pro tip. But yeah, so I'm probably gonna like mess with this like undercarriage stuff more as we do the like armor bits. But let's just sort of like think about those armor bits for now. So in the sketch, there's like 2 very simple armor bits that are like half cylinders. So I think probably the easiest way to do that is to just make a cylinder and then delete most of it, right? So let's, what are we going to do? I'm going to move the 3D cursor back to the origin. Going to that's one place to start. Yeah, I don't know, it's fun. I worked on Pixie Hollow, a Tinkerbell themed game. I worked on stuff for Tron Legacy. I worked on stuff for Pirates of the Caribbean. It's all this branded stuff. It is very funny times. How long have you been using Blender? I've only been using Blender for like a year. I was like a Maya person for years and years and years, because that's what I learned in college, and that's what a lot of places use professionally. But I actually think for modeling, Blender is like a lot better than Maya is now. Also, you don't have to pay for it. But I've been getting, I was mentioning earlier, I've been getting like kind of annoyed at like the shading and like baking part of Blender. So I think I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna do all my materials with Adobe Substance, because that also just has more features that I think I want. So, and like I used to model in Blender and then rig in Maya. I've been slowly transitioning to rigging in Blender. Rigging still feels weird in Blender because their whole armature system is a bit idiosyncratic relative to other things, and there's some limitations I don't love. But you know, it seems good enough. Get the new version. I think I'm on the new version, right? Like I'm on here. Wait, let's see. How do I check the version of Blender that I'm using? A lot of shit. Yeah, I know. Like I saw that stuff, but like the issue is that it's not baking correctly. Also, there's like a bunch of like annoying limitations of like, so like here's an example, right? Like in both Blender and in Substance Painter, they have a bevel node, right? And a bevel node basically lets you smooth the normals around edges without changing the geometry. It just gets baked into a normal map. That's like an extremely common like game ready asset thing. In Blender, like A, you have to switch from EV to cycles, which kind of sucks, and then B, it will create bevels across the whole scene, right? It won't do it per object. Whereas in Substance Painter, it will only create bevels in between two pieces of geometry that are skinned to the same bone. So if you have an articulated character, it won't create these bevels along points of articulation. It's like a really small thing, but it's like a huge pain in the ass to like wrangle it in Blender, and it's like one of like 1,000 like small things that it's not like Substance is like everybody at Adobe is so much smarter than the like lovely contributors who work on Blender, but it's like just that it's just that like Blender is used by so many studios and they've gotten so many feature requests and they've fixed so many bugs and they've added so many of those like little things that like annoyed everybody that it's just like acquired like the 10,000 features that you need, right? So it's like conceptually the same as like shading in Blender, but in practice it just has like does all these like little niceties, and like, you know, Blender will get there eventually, but it's just not there yet. So, and like I was originally hesitant to do Blender because if you go to Adobe's website, they're like, you gotta buy this crazy expensive subscription to use it, but it turns out you can just go to Steam and like buy a very cheap pay once version of it. So I have like Substance 2024 and I'll just keep using that. Cool. Anyway, like I was saying, what time is it? I usually run these streams till like 2, so we've got another half hour. I think it's enough time to at least do like 2 of these panels and then get started on this like big panel. So let's just come in here. Let's add a new cylinder. I think the 16 vertices is like good. I'm just gonna be consistent with all my cylinders with that. Green Coke says coffee cup cat. Is that what that emote is? But so then what we want to do here is want to press 3 to go to face select mode. I want to grab the top and bottom, press X, yank those faces, and then I want to say Shift Z so I can grab all the bottom faces, and I'll delete those as well. Shift Z. Now we kind of just have this like, you know, arc. So I am going to actually, oh no, I put it inside of here. Dang it. Let's get rid of this. I know you can do like separate by loose parts or whatever, but I don't exactly remember the hotkeys off the top of my head. So let's just come out here. Now we're in object mode. Now we add that cylinder, go into its geometry, yank the top and bottom, go into wireframe mode so I can X-ray select, grab everything on the bottom, delete those, go back to regular view. Now what I think we can do is there a way to like select an object and then snap it to another object? What if I say snap? Oh, can I say like selection to active? Oh, that's annoying. That only changes the position. I want to change the rotation. Well, we can do this the dumb way. I can go to item. I can grab this rotation. I can go here. I can paste that rotation. Good enough. So now we can come in here. I can actually grab it and like move it so it's like sitting on top of these 2 balls. And then we'll come in here and we will scale Z. Should I say scale X to like bring it in? So I think what I want to do, let's just scale this whole thing down. Let's go back to the sketch. So in the sketch, these like overlap a little bit. But we do want to like leave a bit on the bottom visible. So maybe this is pretty good. Shift tab enables snap mode. It's magic in the center most top bar. Oh, are you talking about like this like magnet stuff? Magic equals magnet. Yeah. Oh, you're totally right. Yeah, I usually just use that for like snapping to vertices and things, but you're right. I guess it would work. Although, like, does this just snap position or does that snap rotation? I don't know. But so I think what I want to do at this point is you click the little wrench to get modifiers, and I want to add a solidify modifier. This is basically going to take, because we just have like a sheet of polygons, it's going to make it into like, it's going to give it thickness, you see? So now I think what we want to do is, if you look here, I mean, like, I don't know if this is just like me, like being a little goofy, but I kind of had like a little lip, like on either end. So I think I'm going to add, we're going to add some subdivisions, and then slide some of these this way, slide some of these this way, and try and add that lip. Does that look good or does that look real bad? I think what I want to do is, okay, this is going to be real hacker hours. I'm going to select these two vertices. I'm going to say Shift S, cursor to selected. I'm going to change my pivot mode to 3D cursor. We'll go back to edge select, we'll select these edges, and now when I scale, they should scale out relative to that cursor. And so we'll get like a nicer like shape here. I think I can move this over here, and then also scale this. I guess it's fine for that to also be scaling around that pivot. Cool. So then we can select this vertice, shift select this vertice, shift S2 to move the 3D cursor, 2 to go back to edge select. Now we scale up here, select this, we can scale up there, pull this out. I'm just using GG to slide along the surface. Now let me just look at this from the side. I think it might be easier to think about. Oop, that's still got the cursor over here. So we can grab this. We can grab this. Shift S2. Like that? Does that look good? Let's auto shade smooth to make this look smoother. I think that's pretty good. I think probably what I'm going to want to do is like add some more junk, like maybe just another, yeah, just some like more like just stuff that's underneath there basically. I think rather than making a whole new one of these, we can just Shift D, take this dingus, copy your rotation. Now we've got this here. Let's change to median point scaling. Scale this up so it's a bit bigger to cover this like larger area. Move it down a bit. I think this can also be like moved down a bit. And then I think this one, we can say S, Shift Z, just to make it like a little bit thinner. Then I'm going to want to go to edge select mode. We're going to select these rings, GZ. Z is still in local space because this is an object. That's very helpful. We're going to select these rings, GZ. Whoop, I don't know what's going on there. Great. And I think I might want to mess with this curvature just a little bit. So we'll do our world origin trick. Go back to 3D cursor mode. Go back to edge select mode. Look at this from the side. What is this? I'm like listening to Lo-Fi on Spotify. Is this like Steven Universe? Yeah, this is totally Steven Universe. A little closer there. Make that smoothing angle on both these a little sharper, or a little more gradual. Cool. So let's look. I think I can actually turn our like version 1 stuff off. So there's 2 of the armored plates. Are they look a little cattywampus relative to each other right here. I think is it because this one is like kind of overlapping this sphere, but this one isn't? I think that's the case. Hard for this one to really overlap the sphere the same way, though. What am I missing? I guess it doesn't matter. We can always, like, infinitely noodle this stuff later. But, I think that's looking pretty good. I think similarly, I'm going to want to add some geo underneath those later, just so it doesn't look super empty. Like, I think maybe just some, like, struts. But now, the last bit is this. This is like kind of the most complicated organic shape, but it's essentially the same sort of thing for the most part. But then it has this peaky uppy bit at the top, and it has this part at the bottom that sort of covers up the wheels. And then we're going to want to add these like big, you know, like canister greebles. So let's just try something like that real quick. Can I, I'm gonna make a new, is it shift right click? Yeah. So, are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great. So I guess what I'm going to do is, well, let's just try what we did before and see if that works nicely or not. So remove the top and bottom. We're going to delete these faces. I don't think that this one perfectly matches what's underneath it, so I don't think I need to like perfectly match the rotation this time, but we might as well use that as a starting value. Oh, actually no, that one like, it was like, it came this way and then it rotated this way and then it rotated this way, so it's really cockamamie. So we'll just grab this, we'll just move it here. Still got cursor rotation pivot. So there's this part that comes up, then there's this part that comes down, and is going to cover up that. So we're just creating enough topology so that we can do that. Then I think this whole thing there we go. Wait. There we go. I changed my selection mode by accident. So looking at these, they kind of come in. So for starters, I think we want to make it a little bit, the whole thing a little bit fatter, and the whole thing a little bit skinnier. But also, are these? Yeah, these are symmetric. So you know what I'm going to do? We're going to auto mirror this. Edit, auto mirror, boop. That should make things simpler. So now, I can select this. Oop, I have proportional editing on. So I think for this top, we want to delete this face. We want to cut this face. We want to delete this face. Kind of shaping this. And then this bottom part, I think what I actually want to do is, okay, so it comes down and then it comes out. Maybe we just knife from here to here. I don't have a very specific plan with this topology yet. I'm just like experimenting right now. Sorry, I've been fighting my own noodle demons here. I think I banished another one. Let's see. And then... pull this down. Maybe pull this out a bit. And then here, what if we went here, then grabbed these, rotated them out like this. I don't think that's quite what I want, but let's see. Over here, let's solidify. It's also smooth by angle. maybe we want to rotate just a little bit more to match the limb. Like, it shouldn't be perfect, but it should be similar. Yeah, this one's so different. I'm actually going to go into proportional editing so that I can just do this sort of like more organic. By the way, you can bring the image into Blender as a floating plane. Yeah, I know. I usually only do that when I actually drew it like side on or front on or whatever. But like I actually like the sketch being very loose and then figuring stuff out like in 3D rather than just like basically 3D tracing. I don't know why I'm like messing with individual vertices. It's like too soon for that, but whatever. This does not look correct. Here, let's kill this face. Do I just have like too much geometry? I wonder. Oh, it probably needs that much to be smooth. I am micro adjusting when I need to be macro adjusting. Yeah, these don't like taper, so what am I doing? It looks so much better the way I drew it. This always happens when I'm trying to make an organic shape. I start fucking with individual vertices, and it like I lose all my flow state. I don't know why. Anyway, let's try and make some like macro changes here. Don't limit yourself to 30 seconds of vertex. Yeah, well, I don't think I should be messing with individual vertices at all, but here we are. I don't love that there's like a triangle right here. I wish this could be like a quad. I know there's like tricks where like basically you do like diamonds and then you can cause like a certain number of verts to like edges to come in, and then like half as many to come out, but they're all still quads. I mean, this is like fine. I don't love it. There's something about this which is wrong. And it's not just that like these vertices are like not great. Requires an extra subdiv in the space between. Yeah, like I know there's a thing that's like, what is it? If you've got like a bunch of lines coming in, you can do this kind of like diamond pattern. Right? Wait, I'm blanking on it. I think I was drawing this in the sketchbook way long ago. Okay, anyway. Is it like you have 4 coming in? And then you have like 3 coming out or something? No, because this has 5. I know they often do this on like elbows of characters, where you have this like diamond thing. It's this, right? Here you have like a quad. These are all quads. And then coming in, these are all quads. There it is. So you can have like, 4 strips coming in and 2 strips coming out. And then you have this strange looking thing that you usually put on like the elbow or something of a skinned character. And then you have all quad topology, but you can like add or remove the number of things. Maybe that's not that important for like hard surface modeling, but possible, but not optimal to make diamonds. You can simply collapse one edge. Basically, the inner line you subdiv and then pull through to center. Yeah, I'd have to just look at a picture. Anyway, I'm like new to the whole like you should do topology that is stable when you subdivide it. And I mean, the reason is just to like sort of clue in other people why like anyone would even care about doing these weird topology patterns, is that when it subdivides cleanly, it means what you can do is like run a subdivision surface modifier on it, get like a smooth version, and then bake those normals back onto the original. And then you get like a high poly look, even though it's like low poly in the engine. The vertex you have selected at the moment, select that edge connecting to the triangle and subdivide it. That'll make it square out the triangle. I don't know which edge you're talking about. That. Oh, do you mean adding a vertex right on this edge? Inner? If I subdivide this edge, then this isn't a quad anymore, right? Like Oh, you add a whole edge this way. So you're saying like this? Oh, look at me learning things today. Yeah, so then this has got to come this way, and you get like more of a quad inside of there. And look at all this messed up geometry I've created. Here, I need to increase this angle. Okay, okay. Well, I was just complaining about not fucking with vertices, and here we are fucking with vertices again. Let's go back to this. So this, it doesn't even like super look right for what I'm trying to do right now. Here's the thing that's like, yeah, here's the, okay, here's the like, yeah, we can get rid of this and then shape flat. We went to all the, I'm glad that I learned this technique. This is excellent. Thank you so much, Green Coke. Now I'm going to do the worst thing ever, and I'm just going to get rid of this face. And like, just like, have this. I think I just want to like pull this crap in and like try and get this thing looking the way that I had it more in the sketch. I think this is a case where I'm gonna like fuck with vertices for a while, and then I'm just gonna remake this mesh from scratch. But right now I'm doing what's called a learning experience, which is that you can't learn to do things the right way without doing things the wrong way. The secret is that the secret to learning is friction. You have to experience pain. Yeah, let's just do some like overall shaping here. It's not quite looking like, yeah, so this, I think this is, here's the plan. I think we need to add these like canister greebles, and then I think I need to like either reshape this or redo this around those. Because I think actually the way I've got this, it's too much like it's just on the front. And oh my goodness, what did I do? And not enough like, I don't edit everything, it's fine. I edit this thing is. Yeah, it kind of like wraps around it more. I've like flattened this too much. Okay, and then like here, let's just like start adding some like cylinders in some of these places, just as like placeholders. Yeah, I know I'm gonna have to go extremer, but let me just RY90. So So this piece, this guy right here, like if we look at it from the side, it kind of overlaps this. I think it might be that like my proportions are just a bit different here. Oh yeah, this thing goes like way higher. This thing is totally wrong. What am I doing? And then I've got like another one. It's like another one that sticks out here. Right, that's like this one. And then these things need to like encapsulate all that like stuff that's going on underneath there. Okay, so should I keep messing with this or should I? I'll keep messing with this. These gotta be way taller. It's so funny. This thing was like 5,000% off, and I was making like 2% changes to individual vertices. Look at all these wiggle worms. Okay, so just to like think about it, there's this and then there's this, and like actually, okay, so like I think this is like, what have I done? Now let's go back to world mode. These guys in the middle are a little too narrow. So I think actually this can sit like a little lower. And then I think these edges can sit a little lower. And this goes even higher. And then I think that basically gets the proportions right. Oh no, I'm pixel fucking again. Okay, anyway. This is like, I think this is like broadly right? I think it just needs some, okay, well that's obviously wrong. I wonder actually if we just go back into this and like, oh my goodness. like make it taper the other direction. Oh my goodness. There we go. That way it can be like more snug under the armor. Actually, I think all these vertices can just come in a little bit. Oh no, I wasn't selecting the ones on the back. Yeah, that makes more sense. Classic mistakes. Okay, so I mean, like obviously there's like these are like basically in the right place, but I do need to like vertex fuck them into the right place. And then I need to add detailing for these bits. And I also want to add some more like equipment inside of here. Like I think it'll be like kind of the way that this is crossing this way. I'll add like a few things that cross that way underneath these panels. Just fill it in. But then I think this will be like good to rig and like basically bring into the game and like start testing it out. Oh, also I'm gonna need to like apply these solidify modifiers and then hand edit the back side of them. But I mean, basically all the parts are here, right? Like, you know, we're like almost good on this. Any wires, hydraulics, dude? I definitely want to do that, but I have some thoughts on it, which is basically that I want to do those in the engine, not as well. Maybe it'll be part of the. Actually, yeah, I should add some. It's like I want it. Unreal has like control rig, and in control rig, you can basically just have springy joints so that they won't move that much, but it'll just be like they lag and then oscillate a little bit every time it moves. But that is like a once I have, you know, just going back to the game. Mouse pointer. Like once I have, because this is going to replace these 4 legs. That's going to be replaced with this. Then I'm going to do a different leg for these front 2 legs. And then I need to basically just do the main chassis, which will be a little annoying. I need to like lift this part up and do some other things. Still good to add a little base underneath. Yeah. But it's like I'm just like I think like I'm gonna get all the basics on all this stuff, and then I'm gonna do a greeble pass like once it's all working. So, because like on this like main thing here, I didn't add any like antennas or like little reception dishes or anything, and like obviously I want to go into this and like give it a little more. I just put like a box under here. I want this to be like a little more greebled out with like some stuff underneath here as well. Also, I just need to friggin', like I said, learn Substance Painter so I can actually go in and do it. Been watching all those annoying hour-long videos at 2x speed. Like, please, for the love of God, can you just like explain to me how to use it in text rather than video? What can you do? But I think, yeah, I'm starting to get a little shaky because I haven't had lunch. But yeah, the plan is replace these legs, replace the 2 front legs, replace the chassis, have a material pass that uses new materials, and then we're gonna I'm probably gonna do like another gameplay pass, and then once the gameplay's good and I like am generally feeling good about it, then I'll do like a greeble pass, which will be dangling wires, bouncing antennas, like just all sorts of stuff that's just going to be like little secondary physics stuff that I do with Control Rig. So this is great. Thank you so much, Green Coke, for all of your advice. As always, I do this every Friday, generally from noon to 2. I'm working on some other parts of the game, just like getting them ready. But I'm specifically focused on this tank for these for these Friday streams. So if you want to like see more about it, and like eventually get to the point where this like frickin' scene's gonna be totally good, stay tuned. Cool. I'm Max. The game is Nightshift Galaxy. It's pretty Googleable because apparently nobody else in the universe thought to portmanteau the words Nightshift into one word. So you can look it up on Steam. You can wishlist on Steam, wishlist early, wishlist often. I do big announcement stuff on Twitter, but mostly I post on Blue Sky if you actually want to follow along. And yeah, I'm like lightheaded because I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm gonna like totally just go and do that before I just like faint into my keyboard on stream. But this is great. Love you guys. Bye.